Jared Goff is talking about his ex again, questioning the Rams' maturity. Also, Matthew Stafford has his best supporting cast in years, and the Rams really like this rookie. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramily, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your Los Angeles Rams. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're also available over on YouTube, so if you haven't yet, we're trying to get to 18,000 subscribers before training camp. Do us a huge favor, join the party, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and if you are a current subscriber and you want to support the show, hit the like button, drop a comment. Also, podcast listeners, write us a review, and we'll read it on the show. My name is Doug McCain. Friends call me D-Mac. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMac_LA. I've covered LA sports for over a decade, 24/7 sports, Bleacher Report, Chat Sports, SI, Dodgers Nation. I also do NFL radio for Westwood One. Flying solo today, the People's Champ, though, back tomorrow. But today, we've got a jam-packed show. A rookie the Rams really like, that I'm excited about, could have a role this season. Also, why Matthew Stafford has his best supporting cast in years and what that means for the potential of the 2025 Rams. But we are starting today with former Rams quarterback, current Detroit Lions quarterback, Jared Goff. And Jared Goff is speaking about his ex again. Jared Goff is still talking about a trade that went down in 2021. Now, a new season of Netflix documentary Quarterback Season 2, produced by the great Peyton Manning. Jared Goff is one of the quarterbacks that's featured in it, and he called it a blindside when he was talking about the trade that sent Jared Goff and 2 first-round picks to the Detroit Lions in exchange for Matthew Stafford. And then he doubled down on it. He took it to another level when he essentially said that the Rams were immature about the whole situation. Here is the direct quote from Jared Goff. Quote, I would say about 30 seconds after that phone call, when McVay told me I was traded, it was on Twitter. You feel like you've been betrayed or like you're not wanted. And I think for me, ultimately, it was the fact that there was not a conversation had and there wasn't like a, hey, we're thinking of moving on type thing. There was nothing. You wish that it wasn't such a blindside and that there was some sort of maturity, I guess, to have that conversation and to be able to let me know what was going on and how things went down and why this is happening. So he doesn't use the word immaturity, but he questions their maturity, saying that there should have been some sort of maturity, as if Les Snead or Sean McVay or anyone in the Rams organization owed him the heads up saying, hey, Jared, we are going to be trading you. Hey, Jared, we're looking at some external options. Well, my question to Jared Goff is, what kind of world were you living in? Speaking of being blindsided, were you blind to what happened in 2020? Because in 2020, Jared Goff did not have himself a good season. Jared Goff did not put up the kind of season that the Rams were hoping that he would to get them over the hump. The goal was always the Super Bowl for Sean McVay and Les Snead. Anything else was going to be a colossal failure. And in 2020, he did not look good. He played in 15 games that season, threw for 3,952 yards, but 20 touchdowns and 13 interceptions. And what happened towards the end of that season, Jared? What happened was you were pretty much benched by John Wolford at the end of that regular season. And the only reason you got back in the mix as a starter was because John Wolford suffered a head injury in the Rams wildcard game against the Seattle Seahawks. So they gave you big money and you were replaced by John Wolford, and then it comes as a shock that the Rams are trying to upgrade? What are we talking about here? And you look at the Rams from this, they don't owe him anything. The Rams didn't owe Jared Goff a heads up. They're trying to do something that rarely happens in this league. We talk about it on this show a lot. Everyday listeners will know. It's very difficult to acquire a quarterback that is top tier. A top 5 to 10 quarterback is very difficult to get your hands on outside of hitting on one in the draft. So the Rams were trying to be the exception to the rule and get a Matthew Stafford for a Jared Goff, while also including the first-round picks. So why would they tell you? If they tell you, that can't help them in any way, shape, or form. Because the person that you should have got communication from, that should have let you know this was a possibility, was your agent. So if you feel blindsided, that's because your agent is not being realistic. And yes, a lot of these players, they have yes men's and sycophants around them that are telling them everything they want to hear. So they like to massage their egos, right? But in this case, the writing was on the wall. And the truth of the matter is the Rams wanted Jared Goff to work. They traded up lots of draft capital to get him at number 1 in 2016. But they clearly felt like this was not going to work. The Rams-Jared Goff relationship was like a dude getting engaged to their high school sweetheart or their college sweetheart. And it was a long, drawn-out engagement where a lot of great times, you're young and fun, you have some great moments, but ultimately, you don't put that ring on it. And it falls out and it crumbles at the end. The Rams didn't put a ring on it. They put a ring on it with Matthew Stafford, and Matthew Stafford got them that ring that they were so desperately trying to win for so many years with Jared Goff and ultimately failed each time. So, look, this is a situation where Jared Goff needs to get over it. He really, really does. I mean, if Jared Goff had just played average, just C plus maybe, they probably win the Super Bowl in 2018, but he was bad. So, hey, look at yourself in the mirror. I mean, the truth of the matter is the Rams, they are in the business of trying to put together the best roster that can compete for a title. And unfortunately, they didn't view you as the guy that get them over the hump. And guess what? They were right. They were absolutely right. If I want Jared Goff in this situation, I'm not talking about this because the more you talk about it, the more if I'm a Detroit Lions fan, I'm like, dude, like, get over your ex. Like, Jared Goff is that dude who gets like all hyped and ready to go to his high school reunion with his new wife to try to get back at his ex. And he shows up and his ex is like with a supermodel, right? It's like, hey, like the Rams are fine. They ended up on the winning side. So the more you bring this up, the more it makes the Rams look like they made the right decision. And if I'm a Lions fan, I'm like, dude, like, why are you so obsessed with your former team? So to me, if I would move on from this, if I'm him, and look, on top of everything else, he should be happy. He got $135 million, and he got in a situation where Detroit Lions fans are constantly chanting, Jared Goff, Jared Goff. They like him there. They didn't love him in LA because he didn't win. Okay? In Detroit, yeah, winning's nice. They'd love to win a Super Bowl, but they're the Lions, right? They're the perennial all-time losing football team, right? I mean, that's just that. Let's be honest. They've been better lately, but the Lions, they don't have a Super Bowl, right? So they're one of those all-time loser franchises that just, look, I mean, it's not a slight to them. Great fan base, great city. They love their team, but the truth of the matter is the Lions fans aren't going to be as desperate for a Super Bowl as Rams fans in this ownership. So be content there. Like, if you don't win a Super Bowl for that franchise, yeah, it will be a disappointment, but you also get a lot of credit for kind of revitalizing and bringing that team back and making them relevant. Goff doesn't win a Super Bowl in LA. He's a forgotten footnote and considered to be a bust for this team as far as kind of what they were hoping for him. So I don't know what he's so upset about. I mean, if I'm the Rams, I definitely take this as a shot. I mean, I don't know that Goff really truly understands what he means by calling them mature. I mean, I just think that for him to say that they owed him something when, hey, he was looking for better, the Rams looking for better, and they got better. So, yeah, I mean, I've kind of supported Jared Goff, but after kind of hearing this, it really makes me think like, dude, like you really put on record that you think that the Rams handled your situation poorly, and that can't be going on very, very well and being taken very well by the Rams brass, Les Snead, Sean McVay, and company. But at the end of the day, the Rams have the Lombardi Trophy, and they're furthering this relationship with Matthew Stafford. They renewed their vows with Matthew Stafford this offseason, and we're going to talk about his supporting cast and what that means for the Rams ceiling in 2025. And that's coming up next on Locked On Rams. And a reminder that today's episode of Locked On Rams is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups, and the app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. It's easy to use, fast to pay out, and makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. Whether I'm placing a same-game parlay or watching a bet right into the ninth inning, FanDuel makes it feel like I'm part of the action. And right now, Major League Baseball is cooking. You got the Yankees a -1.5 against the Mariners. The Dodgers are -1.5 against the Brewers, trying to avoid a 5-game losing streak. The over is at 8.5 runs. You got Kersh on the mound for the Dodgers tonight. So lots of stuff to get into. And if you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. And we are off and running here on Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Wanted to send a special shout out to those everyday listeners out there watching, listening to every single episode of Locked On Rams. Cannot thank you enough. If you're not a member of that exclusive VIP Everyday Listeners Club, all you have to do to join is watch or listen or watch and listen to every single episode of Locked On Rams. We're back to 5 days a week, and then you won't miss a thing about your Los Angeles Rams. And when they win the Super Bowl, it's going to be a lot more rewarding because the dream is the journey. So let's get into it in our second segment, and let's talk about Matthew Stafford. Man, do I appreciate Matthew Stafford more today than I did yesterday, and I already appreciate him more than ever. Well, that's because uber talented, has a Super Bowl, and is hungry to win another one. And if you look at the Rams roster and the talent around him, you could easily make the case that this is his best supporting cast since they won the Super Bowl in 2021. And ESPN's Bill Barnwell, he puts out his list of best supporting cast, and he has the Rams supporting cast as a top 5 group in 2025. He wrote, if you could guarantee 17 games from the Rams' Big Three at their 2024 levels of play, they might challenge to rank number 1 here. Puka Nacua missed 6 games and still came within a screen of making it to 1,000 yards, as his 3.7 yards per route are comfortably leading the NFL. Big time. Kyron Williams ranked 6th in rushing yards per game despite not having a single run top 30 yards after a difficult first 3 months of the year. Devonte Adams brought in 576 receiving yards and 6 scores from December 1st onward, ranking among the league leaders in both categories. Can the Rams expect all 3 of those guys to live up to those expectations? Nacua is a superstar. Williams is a great gap scheme back, but he has some issues when it comes to fumbling. He's fumbled 8 times over the past 2 seasons, and Adams has been declining since the start of the 2023 season before a late season surge with longtime friend Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. These guys are all great players, so while I have my reservations about the Rams getting the most out of Adams, it would hardly be a surprise if they all garner All-Pro and Pro Bowl considerations. So, first of all, just kind of nitpicking at what he said about Devonte Adams and his decline. Sure, he's north of 30. Naturally, he's going to maybe slow down a little bit, but he's not a receiver that is speed reliant to be effective, right? He's not like a pitcher that needs to throw 100 miles per hour just to be effective. No, he's someone that gets in and out of his breaks. He's a great route runner. He has elite feel for that position. And then I ask, who was throwing him the football those years, right? I mean, his time with the Raiders, even this version of Aaron Rodgers, just the fact that he did not mention that Devonte Adams being paired with Puka Nacua, that's going to free up some stuff for Devonte Adams as far as the focus of the defense, and Matthew Stafford, who still has a top 5 arm when right in this sport. So I still think that you can get a really, really good year out of Devonte Adams. I think that him being on his decline has a lot to do with the talent that he was with, the situation that he was with, just bad teams, bad organizations. So, I mean, just imagine if Devonte Adams had played the last 2 years with the Rams, with Puka, or with Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay. Would Barnwell be saying the same thing? I don't think he would. So you look at where the Rams were on this list for the last couple of years. In 2021, they were 10th, 2022, 7th, 2023, 23, and then 2024, they were 9th. So now they find themselves back in the top 5, and this is the first time that Matthew Stafford has been inside the top 5 in his entire career with the Rams. And I think 2021, of course, that didn't factor in that ultimately you would have OBJ at one point during that season, that Cooper Kupp was going to have that triple crown year. But still, if everything works out for Puka Nacua and Devonte Adams, they could be a top 3 wide receiver duo in the sport. That's how talented they are. That's how much ceiling Puka Nacua has and how much I think Devonte Adams still has in the tank. And another question is Kyren Williams a top 15 running back, a top 10 running back, or a top 5 running back in a year where they should get a deal done to make sure that they are in a good position to retain him? Remember, to extend Kyren Williams isn't, oh, God, we're just throwing out money everywhere. No, they're extending Kyren Williams because he could have a monster year and then get even more money on the free agent market if that's the case. So the idea is to extend a guy in a good situation, and so you get some value out of that. So I don't think he's going to be a guy that will get paid and then just kind of hang him up. He's got high character, gritty dude, loves Sean McVay, loves this team, so I don't expect anything less from him just because he gets the bag. So that's kind of the big question I think can take this offense to the other level is we know that Puka and Devonte are top 5 dudes when right for sure, at least top 10. Kyren Williams, I think, has more variance just because he's not that explosive back. Like you mentioned, didn't have a run past 30 yards, but that's not really what he does. So I also look at just this group right here, and the number one question to help these playmakers is the offensive line. And you look at the big question mark at left tackle, Alaric Jackson, dealing with the blood clots. We're still waiting to see what the next step is for him and if he'll be ready to go when the season begins. A lot of that is directly linked to how well that medication is taking. But you do have DJ Humphries as a backup option. He's expected to plug in to that left tackle spot. They're going to slot him in as Alaric Jackson recovers from those blood clots. And then just the overall performance from this offensive line. You got Rob Havenstein on the other tackle spot. You got Dotson, who was amazing after the trade. He's been solid. Steve Avila, I think one of the storylines down the list to monitor as we enter training camp is, can Steve Avila not necessarily have a bounce back year, but kind of take a big step that we kind of thought he was going to take after that rookie season. So he's still really solid. You had Coleman Shelton back. You still have Bo Limmer in the backup role. You got some pieces, there's no doubt about it, to have a good offensive line. The question is, one, will they stay healthy? Will they get healthy with Jackson? And two, just how will they perform as a group where you don't see a ton of elite, all-pro level tackles, but there's a lot of good that have their moments where they have some bright spots for sure. If you look at some of the preseason rankings for the Rams offensive line, you won't find them in the top 5 or even top 10 anywhere. PFF recently ranked the Rams offensive line 15th in the sport. Sharp Football Analytics has them as 13th. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of it's going to be their depth. A lot of it's going to be can they stay healthy. But if those guys have a top 10 to 15 year, I feel really confident this is going to be a very explosive group. I think you look back at some of those teams where you had a younger Kupp in his prime, and OBJ, Robert Woods. You had Tyler Higbee that was a little younger, less injury prone. I mean, those are really good teams. And I think this year with Tay, with Ferguson in the mix, Terrence Ferguson, you got Hunter, running back out of Auburn, I'm really high on. You got Corum as a combination to provide some depth at that running back spot. They're not going to just run Kyron Williams into the ground. They want to keep some tread on those tires. So I think that you're going to see more at that running back position. So I like the depth. I like the upside talent. Just the big number one question is that left tackle spot. When I wake up at 3:30 in the morning in a cold sweat and my stomach hurts and I can't go back to sleep and I'm rolled over and my wife's on the other side, she's probably thinking, oh, is he thinking about other women or girls? And I'm like, no, man, I'm thinking about the left tackle spot for the Los Angeles Rams because that is what concerns me. Because if you could guarantee me above average play at that position, I truly do think this team's going to win the division. And I think they are going to vie for a NFC championship and an appearance to the Super Bowl. And who knows, they could win the whole darn thing. So that is where the Rams are at as far as depth and talent around Matthew Stafford. Now, flipping to the other side of the football, the Rams are very high on a rookie that they trade up for. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams. Welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Okay, so let's pick it up on the other side of the football, shift to the defensive side, and talk about Chris Paul Jr., defensive player, linebacker, out of Ole Miss. The Rams picked him up in the 5th round, and a lot of Rams fans were happy just to see them address that position. I mean, last year you lose Ernest Jones. You don't feel great about that position. You got guys returning, but I think with Paul, I think what are we going to call him? Because his nickname's Pooh. He's Chris Paul Jr. Guess we'll find out during training camp. And he still has to do a lot of things to find starters reps and get in that starting lineup. But linebackers coach Greg Williams has been really, really high on him so far. He said that he's got great aggressiveness and, quote, I don't think we've seen the best of Pooh because we don't have the pads on. He said that kid has been unbelievable as far as preparation. He's a football guy. It is his number one priority. So with that being said, I'm going with him because I think he's going to will himself to be good. So he was asked during OTAs in minicamp about kind of the physical traits and what he liked about him and kind of which rookie would pop. And what he said he liked about Paul was just like football guy and the fact that, hey, this is just the tip of the iceberg, right? I mean, we're just scratching the surface on him, and we'll wait to see how he looks when pads are on because we feel like he's going to have even more of a potentially meteoric rise within this organization. Now, you look at that room right now, you got Chris Paul Jr., Omar Spates, Nate Landman, you got Troy Reeder. I mean, those are guys that are ahead of him on the depth chart right now, but I really do think if things work out, he could surge up this depth chart. The talent has already been there. He has just the physical tools to be a starting caliber linebacker in the National Football League because even though he's a bit undersized, it's the speed and athleticism that you see from him that really stand out. So I think this is going to be a major storyline to kind of look at on that side of the football, just because we've seen guys emerge, and that's just kind of been the story of this team. I mean, if you're good, you're going to play, and it's not about, oh, I was drafted here or I came from here or whatever. It's like if you can play, you can play. I mean, last year, Jonah Jackson Didn't work out, and you put Bo Limmer into that spot. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts when you kind of look at this team, and that's the beauty of the Rams. It is a true meritocracy. Best dudes are going to play, and that is always going to be the case. So that's why I do think that, hey, if things work out, he realized that potential, he's going to get some runway. Now, as far as some of these executive polls that we're seeing, Kobe Turner is a guy that I do think that should be getting a little hype adjacent to what Jared Verse gets. And NFL executives, they agree with me. They ranked Kobe Turner as one of the best defensive tackles in the National Football League. ESPN has their list, and in that list, he wasn't in the top 10. And that was with personnel evaluators that were in league circles, but he was one of the 5 honorable mentions. But for the NFC personnel executive list that spoke with ESPN's Jeremy Fowler on Turner, they had this to say. He has the ability to get off the ball and establish leverage. He has natural feel to be in the right place at the right time and plays with urgency. He can also close the deal when there's a chance for a TFL, pressure, or a sack. So that's absolutely the case. He's got the motor, man. He's the conductor, right? He was 8th last year among all defensive tackles with an 83.8 PFF grade. So PFF grade said, hey, he's the 8th best. And that was in 2023, his rookie season. Last year, a little bit of a dip as far as the PFF grade, 15th, 74.9. But if you look at the entire body of work, 102 total pressures, 76 stops. I mean, those are really good numbers for a defensive tackle. I mean, no one's going to be Aaron Donald, but Kobe Turner certainly has just stepped onto the scene and softened the blow with the combination of the guys they've added around him to make this defense feel like a strength. And that was always my big question with the Rams when Aaron Donald was out is, are we just going to lean on offense? I did it, right? I always do it every now and then, saying we, as if I play for the Rams, as if I'm suiting up. No. Okay. The Rams, will they lean on the offense and just have a bad defense, or will the defense be a strength? How quickly could they be a strength? And they have become a strength on that side of the football, particularly on the defensive line, quicker than I think anyone would have imagined, to the point where they're just great at times. So I think it's going to get better. I still think that he is one of the best defensive tackles in football, and I think that he has a lot to kind of prove this year in that, hey, like everyone talks about Jared Verse and this and that, but hey, he deserves a lot of hype and praise himself. And I think that he almost feels like the veteran on that side with all the maturity that he does have, right? So love the dude. I think he's a star, and I really think he should drop a Christmas album because he's got a great voice, and he's kind of the voice of that defense along with Jared Verse and the rest of those Rams. But that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Rams. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. And until next time, whose house? It's Locked On Rams house.